Here's white versus the Pirc, lesson 3, e4, d6, d4, knight f3, knight c6, g6, f4, bishop g7, knight f3, c5, bishop b5 check, bishop d7, e5, knight g4, bishop takes d7, queen takes d7, d5, d takes e5, h3, e4, knight takes e4, knight f6, knight takes f6 check, bishop takes f6, castles, castles. Black's basic idea is to play e6 in order to neutralize white's space advantage. Before opening the center, he must evacuate his king. Bishop e3. This is the most troublesome of the moves for black. Some alternatives would be c4, and black has an easier time with this. For example, e6, knight e5, queen d6. Or another alternative would be knight e5, queen d6, c4, e6, which is obviously the same position. Bishop takes b2. There's another line here that's supposed to equalize, which would run, let's see, rook d8, c4, e6, knight e5, queen d6, knight g4, bishop takes b2, rook b1, bishop g7, d takes e6, f5, knight e5, knight c6, queen takes d6, rook takes d6, knight takes c6, b takes e6, bishop takes c5, rook takes e6. But this is a rather risky looking variation for black. I'm not even sure that white doesn't have a pull in the ending after a move like rook fe1. At any rate, black still needs to find a few more good moves. So let's jump back to here we said bishop takes b2. Now black or white can play here knight e5, and that would follow queen c7, rook b1, and it forces black to part with his bishop. After bishop takes e5, f takes e5, and the right move for black here would be knight d7. Queen takes e5, and queen f3 gives the advantage to white. So, but let's say that he does play knight d7. So a couple of games have gone d6 as opposed to something like bishop 8-6. It's perhaps a sterner test, but black should be alright after a move like knight takes e5. So forget about the bishop for the moment, and d6, e takes d6, e takes d6, queen c6, bishop f4, when white has compensation for the pawn but no more. Let's go back to our main line of the game here. Okay, and here white moves Rook b1. Bishop g7. Bishop takes c5. Rook d8. Bishop d4. Now with this move, white is hoping for a small endgame. Plus he doesn't even manage that. Now, of course, he would prefer to play a move like c4, but the problem here is that after queen c7, he'll drop the pawn on c4. Several games have continued. Bishop d4, queen takes c4, bishop takes g7, king takes g7, rook takes b7, queen takes b5, or d5, queen takes d5, rook takes d5, rook takes e7, knight c3, c6, rook c7, knight d8, defending the only potential weakness in his position on f7, and they have ended in draws. Now going back to here, this position, the last chance to spice things up would be knight e5, queen c7, bishop a3, knight c6, and rook takes b7. After other moves, white is possibly even worse. Queen takes b7, knight takes c6, with decent compensation for the exchange. Black should probably not try to hang on to the material, but instead play a move like e6.